earlier this week, former Navy SEAL and Missouri's former governor Eric Greitens and his friend were having dinner at a local restaurant when they heard nearly 25 gunshots. They immediately ran to the scene to help two victims near St. Louis University. Sadly, both those men died from their gunshot wounds later. The former governor later spoke about the shooting, saying this is like something he would have experienced when he was in Iraq or Afghanistan and not the city of St. Louis. Take a listen.
This is happening again and again and again. We have a record number of murders in the city this year. And right now you've got two bodies out here at Lindell and Grand, automatic gunfire going off like a war zone.
Well, joining us now to talk about that event and the uptick in crime is former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens. Governor, welcome.
Hey, great to be on with you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
And Governor, you've literally, when you say in a war zone, you've been there, Afghanistan, Iraq, Horn of Africa, all these places around the world. As a Navy SEAL, you've seen it firsthand. So I don't take it lightly when you say that this is like a war zone. Have you experienced anything like this in the U.S. ever before?
No, we haven't seen something like this before, Sean. I mean, I was sitting outside, and as you said, we had at least 25 shots go off, two different weapons, semi-automatic rounds fired, high rate of speed. And, you know, my buddy and I, we grabbed our weapons, we grabbed our med kits, we got on the scene. And for, you know, your folks on a national audience might not know, Lindell and Grand is a very nice corner in the city of St. Louis. This is a place where anyone would take their family. And this is happening in daylight. So yeah, it's a kind of thing that you expect in Iraq and Afghanistan, but it's happening right now, not just in St. Louis, but this massive uptick in violence and murders across the country. And it's just an embodiment of the consequences that come when we don't support our police officers.
Yeah, and we've been talking about that quite a bit, Governor. But, you know, talking about St. Louis, we saw Captain David Doran get shot just about a month ago. And then we saw people have to take law into their own hands. The McCloskeys there. I mean, where does this end when you have situation after situation? It feels like there is no end.
Well, what you're seeing here is the consequences when you have a George Soros-funded prosecutor in Kim Gardner, who's the circuit attorney in St. Louis. It's the prosecuting attorney. And 70% of her campaign was paid for by Soros, and the radical left is getting exactly what it paid for. She has let looters loose with no charges. Burnings and arson are happening to businesses across the city. We had 4 police officers who were shot in one night. As you just mentioned, Captain David Doran was murdered. We've had people in prayer who were assaulted and attacked by activists, and no one is charged. And yet what does she do? She comes out and she charges people and takes their guns away who are defending their own home. This is an embodiment of what happens when you get the lawlessness in this kind of ludicrous liberal leftist logic of defunding the police.
Yeah, I just want to recall, because you touched on it, but it's the McCloskeys are right there in St. Louis, right? These are people that you're talking about that stood outside with the guns and tried to defend their own property. And it was that prosecutor that went after them for defending their property when people broke down their gate to their house.
That is exactly right, Sean. And it's so important to remember she's the same prosecutor who decided to let looters and arsonists loose with no charges. There was video of people in prayer who were being beaten viciously by activists, no charges. But who does she come after and charge? The McCloskeys. And it's just clearly an embodiment of what happens when you have, unfortunately, you know, I saw on the street, again, the courage and the common sense of our police officers, our firefighters, our first responders. And it's just a terrible contrast to the cowardice and the confusion that you see from so many politicians who should be out supporting the police instead of attacking them.
Yeah, and we've seen 30 police officers killed so far this year compared to, in total, 48 last year, just to show you what drastic numbers we have so far. And we've seen so many innocent children killed so far. I mean, how do we change this narrative? How do we move forward and actually make a change? Because defunding the police obviously isn't the answer.
Now, what it's going to take is it's going to take courage, and it's going to take clarity, and it's going to take leaders who are willing to step forward and stand behind our law enforcement officers who are doing a fantastic job. Look, when I was governor in Missouri in 2017, we defeated Antifa. Antifa came to Missouri and they threatened that they were going to burn Missouri down, that they were going to make it worse than Ferguson. And what we did was we brought together clergy and police lieutenants, business owners, community leaders, and we were very clear. We said, look, everyone has the constitutional right to protest. Everyone has the constitutional right to freedom of speech. And if you're out peacefully protesting, you will find that the police are out protecting you. But we were also really clear that throwing a brick through a window is not free speech. And that if you assault a police officer, you're going to be arrested. And with that clarity and that courage and that compassion, we're able to create, keep, and maintain the peace. And that's what we have to have, not just in St. Louis, but around the country.
Governor, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for standing up for the police and talking about what their role is and what they're doing. And obviously, you are a great person to go to dinner with, considering all of your training in the background. So you are now a top dinner guest, I'm sure, for a lot of people throughout Missouri.
Well,
thanks again for everything you've done.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. Thanks. Great to be.
All right. Well, did you buy any Bitcoin yesterday? Well, you might have, because multiple high-profile Twitter accounts appeared to be selling it, but it was all just a hack. Our company is here to discuss that later, and claims that labs in Florida are exaggerating the numbers of confirmed COVID-19 cases. We're going to talk to the state's chief financial officer about that when Spicer & Company continues.